I thought it would be an interesting thought experiment to try and imagine what it would mean to call Olivia Rodrigo a rock star here in 2026, following her most recent album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. I'm in no way trying to diminish the label of pop star or imply that she's above the title anyway, because if anything, not limiting herself to the ailing genre that is modern rock music, we'll get to it, trust me, that has resulted in both more success for herself as well as a much more enriching and inspiring pop music scene as a whole. It's just the thought that I wanted to consider. A little background for myself. I grew up in alternative rock music spaces as an emo, I guess that's what I would be called, and I would secretly be listening to pop music so my friends wouldn't know because that was considered lame or whatever. So I have a lot of interest in both of these genres and what it means as a whole and their crossovers especially. Oh, and also I forgot my microphone. I'm currently on vacation right now, so I'm talking into my phone. Hope that's okay, everyone. Keep the Zeke and Luther phone case though. I had it custom made. It's a bit dusty right now, but isn't that awesome? I bet you're jealous. So I don't necessarily feel the need to get into what rock music is as a genre. I have a feeling you probably understand what it is. At least I hope you would. Generally, I want to talk about music that is much more instrument leaning, with live instrumentation and a focus on electric guitar more often than not. The more you get into acoustic guitar, the more you get closer to like folk or even country. And also, genres don't mean anything anymore. Genres used to have a purpose in terms of fulfilling what you like would look for as a consumer. Like, I want to buy a CD and I want to know that I'll somewhat like some of the tracks on it, and I know I like rock music, so I'll go to the rock music section at the CD store. Or I know I like jazz, so I'll go to the jazz section, that kind of stuff. And nowadays, with algorithms and streaming services, none of that fucking means bullshit anymore. So It's all pretty arbitrary at the end of the day. So my big question has been, why does no one see Olivia Rodrigo as a rock star? I asked this question all the way back in December of 2025 when there were hints that she was going to be making new music, but like we hadn't gotten anything from the whole era quite yet. And I distinctly remember I was really, really getting back into her first two records and just listening to them a lot at the time, and was sitting there and thinking, and at a New Year's Eve party, I decided to bug all of my friends and ask them this exact question: why do we not see Olivia Rodrigo as a rock star? And I got some middling answers. For most people that are my peers, the answer was just like, well, it's because she's a pop star and she makes pop music. To then I would ask the question annoyingly and also a little bit drunk, what is pop music? That question harshes the vibe a little bit, especially as we're all 3 vodka crayons deep. I also asked my dad this question, who I focus test pretty much all of my video topics with, and the example that he gave was that she makes too many ballads, which I think is a decent enough excuse. It's still an excuse, though. My dad is an old school metalhead, by the way, if anyone was wondering. But like most of those classic hair metal bands of the 80s had plenty of ballads that were about how much they loved you in between their girls discography. It all seems pretty shallow at the end of the day, don't you think? So for that metric, we should completely scratch out lyrical material, because it's not like she's just talking about silly girly stuff. Speaking of, maybe misogyny is a big example as to why. While it's true that Olivia Rodrigo, in her very girly and feminine presentation in both style and lyrical material, would be pretty heavily dismissed by the white male chauvinistic gatekeepers of rock music, I don't think it's the only answer, and it's definitely the unsatisfying example. Like, patriarchy, bye folks, that's all. We can dig a little deeper than that, I think. Maybe it's her pop star fan base left over from Disney Channel. That could be an example. I mean, she was on a TV show with Jake Paul for multiple seasons, so you could see, again, the gatekeepers not necessarily being so tolerant of that. Although I would argue that the mainstream rock assembly as a whole has accepted Taylor Momsen, who had a similar child star upbringing. And that's another example of how limiting yourself to rock music as a genre may limit your level of success. Not saying that Taylor Momsen wanted like huge pop star level fame. I think she's exactly where she wants to be. Did a fucking bug just fly past the lens? Did y'all see that? I might be going a bit crazy. But if you're a pop music listener, it's very likely you've never heard a song from The Pretty Reckless, or even know who that is. That's the band that Taylor Momsen is in. So I don't necessarily think it's that specific upbringing that would limit Olivia Rodrigo from being a rock star of sorts. The conclusion that I've personally come to, because I'm me, is that pop star marketing is a bitch. It's a thing that's really hard to shake. And also, I don't think Olivia is looking to shake that image at all. I think she likes being a pop star. I think if she wanted to be taken more seriously by the rock music gatekeepers, as in if she took them seriously in any way whatsoever, she would be moving very differently during the promotion of her records. That's honestly the best place to be in, where she is right now, where she just makes the music that she wants to make. And as far as I'm aware, as just a stranger watching her through a screen, seeing that she has no interest in pleasing any sort of higher up and who tries to define her and put her in a box of sorts. Again, that's why this is just a fun thought experiment and not actually something I'm trying to advocate for. Like, start calling Olivia Rodrigo a rock star. Like, no one cares. Pop star marketing is seriously an industry unto its own that is extremely, extremely hard to shake. An example of this, of course, is 5 Seconds of Summer. For those who don't know, this is secretly a 5 Seconds of Summer stan account. I will pretty much bring them up in every video of mine, it seems like. It'll be a very rare situation that I don't yap about them because I have a problem. I'm going to see them live in a couple of days, actually. That's what I'm on vacation for right now. So expect a vlog about that? I don't know. I struggle to vlog. I'm not necessarily the vloggy type. But they're an example of a group that would be easily accepted by the rock music scene if they had just had completely different marketing attached to them. My secret covert example of this is water parks, or if you want to look at their inspirations, All Time Low, which I know we're not supposed to talk about, but there you go. The critics may say it's because their music was too pop and that they are the example of pop punk going too far, but they said that literally 15 years earlier with Avril Lavigne. So I don't see it as a good enough excuse. That excuse doesn't pass the smell test, you know? It's because they toured with One Direction and were shacked up with Modest Management, which is like one of the evil villain stories of 2010s pop music in terms of how restricting their management really was. So early on in their career, they had some, recognition from places like Kerrang, where they got some, obscure awards and were actually given the opportunity to cover American Idiot by Green Day for the 10-year anniversary of that album coming out back in 2014. Kerrang used to do this thing. I think they still do it. I think they did it for the 20th anniversary of American Idiot a couple years ago already. But they would get an album of a that was having an anniversary, and they would have a different person record a cover of each song on the track list. And Five Sauce were given the ability to cover American Idiot, and it became a staple of their set list at that time as well. But again, they toured with One Direction, so as far as anyone's aware, they should be flogged and publicly shamed for daring to be posers. Did y'all see the dog move? He's over here, by the way. Just thought I'd let y'all know. Just for an anecdote for how serious the whole poser thing is for some people, I had a couple friends way back in 2015 or 2016 that I tried to get to introduce the album Dangerous Woman to people, and I got no bites. That's a paltry example. A more serious one is in 2019, or maybe late 2018, when Billie Eilish was starting to hit it big, and she still had like the silvery hair and was doing the whole Ocean Eyes era. And I remember a friend of mine calling her a poser, specifically because at the time, the dominant conversation that a lot of people were having was that she's scary. She scares me. She's spooky. And of course, to me and my friends who listen to songs like Whore to a Chainsaw on a consistent basis, it was seen as a little bit silly to call, I'm the bad guy, Billie Eilish, scary in any way. But that's such an absurd way to look at the world, and it's extremely annoying. Again, the thing with the gatekeepers is that, especially with alternative scenes, is that the goal was never to uproot the system entirely and change it. It was to either still exist within it, but just away from all the Hollister polo t-shirts, or to create their own system that they could be the leaders of, just with black eyeliner instead of, again, Hollister polo t-shirts. So that's why it's so satisfying to me when so many pop stars like Billie Eilish and Olivia Rodrigo are like, I don't really care about whatever world you're standing in front of the gate of. I have no interest in entering it in the first place. Especially because everyone just loves to have the conversation of rock music is dead. Can I talk about this for a little bit? Because I find it an absolutely absurd and extremely interesting conversation people have been having. I think what really sparked this for a lot of people was the conversation that Howard Stern and Youngblood have. Howard Stern is a villain of the channel, by the way. I don't like Howard Stern at all. I've called him a pot stirrer of an interviewer in the past, and I still stand by that. He was interviewing Youngblood, and they got onto the topic of rock music is dead. And when Howard Stern says rock music is dead, and when Youngblood responds, I think they're having two completely different conversations. And this is something that it's not just these two people, obviously. They kind of represent, this conversation is a microcosm for the larger conversation people are having as a whole. This was just played on a loudspeaker because it got, clipped and spread on Twitter or whatever. But when Howard Stern says rock music is dead, he means something different. When he says that, Youngblood replies, no it isn't, look at all of these modern rock albums that came out from these modern rock bands or artists, like Turnstile and Geese and Emil and the Sniffers, and sure, let's throw in Youngblood and Five Sauce there, fuck it, But when Howard Stern says rock music is dead, what he means is not that no one's making rock music anymore. He knows that. He's interviewing Youngblood right now. What he means by that is that it's not popular anymore. It doesn't appear on the charts anymore. And if that matters to some people, which I find it very interesting and I like following, but I understand that it's not the thing that controls what I like or dislike, obviously. But if that kind of stuff matters to you, numbers and chart success, then yeah, rock music is dead. I think people have been bringing up the conversation again lately because certain rock songs have kind of trickled back onto the charts, when in the 2010s it was basically a complete dead zone, unless you count Imagine Dragons as rock, which people do. I don't, however. I know what you're saying, then why do you count Five Sauce? Listen, it's a complicated story. Maybe I'll make a video about it, okay? I don't really count Five Sauce either, if I'm being completely honest with you. Again, we're getting off topic. Rock music all but disappears from popular music in the 2010s, and the reason for that, again, could be a video unto itself, and maybe that will happen one day, because it's there's many theories as to why, and I don't think any of them are completely definitive necessarily. But in 2021, especially with Olivia Rodrigo's debut and with MGK appearing, people were starting to question if this whole pop punk revival had any weight. I mean, Willow also had a pretty famous EP at the time. All of these people, except for Olivia, were being produced by Travis Barker, who of course is the drummer of Blink-182, so it's kind of like a passing of the baton of sorts. Is this a safe enough space for me to admit that I actually really like Tickets to My Downfall? I'm one of those people. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't help it. It's just who I am. That was just a fluke. It didn't really inspire a bigger trend outside of the artists who just happened to be making that sound all coincidentally at the same time. Maybe they were responding to some sort of cultural moment, but as far as we're aware, it was just a silly little thing that happened in that specific year. But occasional rock songs have appeared on the charts since. Måneskin won Eurovision a couple years ago, and they had a couple of hit songs, and I think there's a very obscure, random, heavy industrial song that's charting right now, and I think Julia Wolf would be considered alternative or something. I don't know. She made a song with Drake, so I haven't really paid attention to what she's doing. And if anything, this most recent Olivia Rodrigo album is the least rock that she's ever sounded. Obviously, I don't think that that's the case. It's very much soaked in inspiration from 90s alternative indie rock. It doesn't have that obvious Riot Girl pop punk influence that her previous records did. I still think Obsessed is the heaviest song she has that is very much inspired by that sort of dance punk, or there's another term for it, I don't know, genre that was happening in the 70s and then eventually, or the 80s, I mean. and eventually later with a revival in the 2000s. I actually got a whole playlist of it on Spotify that I'll link in the description below if you want to check it out. But for rock to come back and have a revival in popular culture and popular music, this album would be the one to do it because of just how normalized its sort of indie rock sound is. If people wanted to jump on that trend and capitalize on this sound specifically, no one really has, again with Olivia Rodrigo. Look at 2021 again for an example. But all of these examples that I've listed from the 2020s could all be hints or theories of maybe rock music coming back. And none of that's the case. And every time a fluke rock song appears on the charts, or an artist like Olivia Rodrigo continues to be successful, everyone sees it as a fluke. And it makes me wonder what would need to happen for rock music to be back for you people. Makes me wonder if that third Beyonce album that is supposedly gonna be a rock album, because she's exploring 3 different genres, right, with the trilogy or whatever, and she did house music and then country, and now she might be doing rock. Would that bring it back for y'all people? She didn't bring back house music, and country was already having its moment when she happened to release that album. It was good timing, or Beyonce Knows Everything, Illuminati joke here that's actually not that funny because of how weird y'all are. But even if it were to be so back, I think people would still find a way to be mad about it, because a genre like pop rock or very pop inspired music that is like indie rock genre or the opposite has never been respected by people. Look at Avril Lavigne, for example. The critics hate Avril Lavigne. Her and artists like the pop punkers of Simple Plan and All Time Low and stuff are considered the artists who basically ruined rock music for everybody by just taking it too far in the pop direction. At least that's what I've surmised from certain takes from certain critics. That's also why they hate Five Sauce so much, because again, they're very much in that lane of extremely pop-soaked rock music to where they don't even want to call it rock music anymore. And maybe the only reason why I even consider it within that lane is because, again, there's live instrumentation, which was very much not the case for 2010s pop music. So that unique factor unto itself, I think, can exclude it and include it into the alternative genre. Which, by the way, what does alternative even mean? Like, in 2015, Troye Sivan was considered alternative, and so was Halsey. And I think one is more valid in the alternative space than the other, in terms of their sound, specifically. Genuinely, I think a whole generation has been raised not on pop punk and bubblegum, so... That's a Five Sauce lyric, I'm sorry. So they've completely lost the taste for and lost the ear for true rock music for a revival to really substantially mean anything, honestly. At least in my opinion. I could be wrong, though. They do call me Steph Stradamus, after all. I'm always like 50-50 on my predictions, which is a pretty bad track record. I should not be predicting things. The rock revival could happen any minute now, and I could have egg on my face, but... I don't see it happening. None of y'all even know how to act at shows anymore, okay? The culture is just completely shot. There's this tweet from Halsey that I actually find very, very funny and very interesting, where they specifically say that, like, y'all want the rock album for me, yet when I see you at my shows, you're just standing there. Wait, I have the phone, actually. Just upside down, obviously. Just doing this. This is all you do at shows. So if you want the rock album, you're gonna need to learn how to fucking mosh, okay? And there's etiquette to moshing. It's not literally just assaulting people in the pit, like apparently what y'all are doing at those rap music rage concerts. They really need to just like go through the cycle that the metal community did, where you learn to not assault people. Oh, and not misogyny. I heard there's a lot of rapes or assaults happening on those scenes as well, which was definitely the case in the early metal community as well. It's an ugly history, okay? We need to keep up on the books so it doesn't happen anymore. And also, I think a lot of modern pop stars are afraid of doing the whole rock music thing because flip-flopping between genres is not going to get people anywhere. I got one foot in the golden light, one foot in the gutter. So sick of the tug of war, keeps pulling me under. I'm just going to start quoting Five Sauce lyrics as a new language, and y'all are just gonna have to deal with it. My example of this is Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato did the full rock pivot and did essentially 2 full albums of like, I'm a rock artist now. I make rock music. I make songs with Slash and stuff, like fully enveloping themselves into that world and genre, only to then make an electro pop album afterwards. And I think to the rock community, they feel as though you're a poser and don't want to accept you until you've like consistently proven yourself, and not that you're just wearing their culture as a cosplay or whatever. Even though we all know that's not the case for Demi Lovato specifically, but again, if you're seen as a pop star, it's really hard to integrate yourself into the rock community without fully committing. Which means losing a lot of mainstream appeal, because again, the mainstream doesn't like rock music, so when you make the rock album, it's not going to cross over and get a lot of pop success. Olivia Rodrigo, again, is an anomaly in this situation. The fact that she's able to have commercial success and make rock adjacent leaning pop music is an amazing factor, and not many others can do it. Again, look at Demi Lovato. I think that's why It's Not That Deep, maybe, just according to some people, underperformed, because Demi sacrificed commercial success for street cred, and then threw away all the street cred to get some more commercial success, and just going back and forth between those two things just leads you in a middle area, in dead man's zone. The exact same thing happened to Five Sauce as well. So to conclude, I don't want or need Olivia Rodrigo to be a rock star or anything, and the fact that she has not been called that seriously by pretty much anyone as far as I'm aware is proof that rock is extremely dead. Like, it's so gone, y'all. We are the opposite of so back. We are so not back. And does that really matter at the end of the day? No, because genre doesn't matter anymore, and it's probably for the better that it doesn't matter anymore. And Olivia's denial of wanting to be given a specific label, honestly, is just good marketing on her part. If she was constantly whining about how people don't take her seriously as a rock musician, I think that would do very bad for her in the public eye. I mean, it did for Five Sauce as well, but I think I talked about that in my Rolling Stone 10-year anniversary article review, analysis, deep dive. Check that out. I'll put it on the screen. My legs have fallen asleep and my drink is empty. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.